In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a watercolor sugar skull. So I'm going to use a template here for a skull shape, but you can draw this by hand if you prefer. And I traced around it, and then I'm just drawing my basic shapes. So I'm going to start with the circles for the eye sockets, and now note that those are about halfway down the skull, so do not put them too high. So now I'm just adding some decorative flowers and some other patterns, but you can use any sort of decorations you want. Then I added in the nose socket, which is basically an upside down heart, and now I'm creating the teeth, and you can do this any way you like. And then I'm going to add in just some different sort of swirl patterns. I'm going to add a flower at the top. You can put multiple flowers, you can put no flowers. It's really up to you how you want to decorate your sugar skull. So you can look at some different reference images if you like to get inspiration for your sugar skull. And then I'm outlining everything in Sharpie. So I wanted to keep the outlines dark for this, and I also am using the Sharpie to fill in the black areas of the sugar skull, but you can just do this with paint and not outline it with Sharpie if you prefer. So I'm going over all of the lines and I'm adjusting them as necessary with the Sharpie here. So next thing I'm going to do is erase all my pencil marks, and then I'm preparing my watercolor. So I'm just putting a few drops of water with the brush on the paint colors that I'm planning to use. So first here I'm using a wash, so that's just a solid color of this sort of tealy blue color around the eye. Then I'm going to fill in each of these petals, but I'm doing a couple at a time because I'm using a pink color, and then I'm actually using the wet and wet technique to add in a little bit of purple near the center of the flower. And that just helps give the flower a little bit more dimension and interest. So I'm going to go through and fill in the different features and the decorations with color, but I'm going to leave the main area of the sugar skull white because I want it to stand out from the background. So here I'm using a wet and wet technique. I put clear water on the paper, and now I'm dropping in that tealy color as well as some purple, and I'm just going to fill the top section all using this wet and wet technique because I really like the way this looks. But if you wanted to create this as just a wash or a gradient, you could. You can also, if you prefer, leave the background white and then use this sort of wet and wet technique or any other watercolor technique you like on the inside of the skull. So toward the bottom here, I'm actually letting my watercolor drip. So I'm first adding a lot of watercolor to the paper and letting it sort of puddle up, and then I'm tilting the paper to let it drip down. So I'm going to use this same sort of drip effect just at the bottom of my paper because I really want to control where that watercolor goes, and if I do the drips towards the top, then I would worry that the drips will go into the skull area, and that's not what I want. So I'm going to add in some more areas around where I created the drips, but notice I don't let my watercolor touch where the drips are because then that'll actually, the drips will just sort of blend in with any other watercolor that touches it. So I'm going to let that dry a little bit on the bottom. I think I'm going to add in some more drips with a different color, but I want it to dry completely. So I went in and added some more finishing touches on my skull, and now I'm going to add some turquoise drips. And remember, I did this once the watercolor underneath was totally dry. Otherwise, if that watercolor was wet underneath, then these drips would actually just kind of blend in, and just it would be that normal wet and wet technique. It wouldn't look like drips. So that's pretty much it. I'm adding in a few little last minute touches to fill in the paper, but that's it. I'm done.